Nayanam Darashano Bhaya Taranam Karuda Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivarajakacharya Asnodhara Sata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Caitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Govardhana. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 3. This chapter is Lord Caitanya at the house of Advaita Acharya. And we're starting today at text 204 through to 212. Sachira Ananda Bade Deki Putra Mukha Bhojana Karana Purna Kaila Nija Sukha Sachira Ananda Bade Deki Putra Mukha Bhojana Karana Purna Kaila Nija Sukha. Vaishnavis? Sachira of Sachimata, Ananda Bade, pleasure increases. Deki, seeing. Putra Mukha, the face of her son. Bhojana Karana, feeding. Purna, full. Kaila, made. Nija Sukha, her own happiness. Translation. As Mother Sachi constantly saw the face of her son and fed him, her own happiness increased and was indeed complete. Please repeat. As Mother Sachi constantly saw the face of her son and fed him, her own happiness increased and was indeed complete. There's no purport, everyone, for the next verses, so I'll just read the English, starting with text 205. In this way, at Advaita Acharya's house, all the devotees met and passed some days together in a greatly festive mood. The next day, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested all the devotees to return to their respective homes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also asked them to execute the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord at their homes, and he assured them that they would be able to meet him again. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them, Sometimes you will come to Jagannath Puri, and sometimes I shall come bathe in the Ganges. Sri Advaita Acharya sent 4 persons, Nityananda Goswami, Jagannananda Pandit, Damodar Pandit, and Mukunda Datta, to accompany the Lord. After pacifying his mother Sachimata, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu submitted prayers to her lotus feet. When everything was arranged, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu circumambulated his mother and then started for Jagannath Puri. In the house of Advaita Acharya, there arose tumultuous crying. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was unaffected. He left swiftly, and Advaita Acharya followed him weeping. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, the word nirapeksha means not being affected by anything material and remaining fixed in the service of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not very much care for the roaring tumult and cry at the house of Advaita Acharya, which he heard when starting for Jagannath Puri. Worldly moralists may criticize Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for being very cruel, but the Lord did not care for such criticism. As the world teacher of this Krishna consciousness movement, he actually showed that a person seriously engaged in Krishna consciousness should not be affected by worldly affection. The best course is to engage in rendering service to the Lord and to become callous to material objectives. Externally, everyone is attached to material things, but if one becomes entangled in such things, he cannot make progress in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness should not care for the so-called morality of the material world, if that morality opposes the service of the Lord. As Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally shown, one cannot properly execute Krishna consciousness without being neutral. So I'll just read a few verses, everyone. We read this last time we spoke, but it's still relevant because this is Mahaprabhu leaving home for Jagannath Puri as a sannyasi. And this verse is found in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 5, text 34. It's one of many, many indications of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's future advent and pastimes. We offer our respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went into the forest to deliver the fallen souls who are put into illusion by material energy. And because Srila Prabhupada mentions mundane moralists here, there's a famous verse of Madhavendra Puri Goswami, who is, of course, the grandfather, spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. And Madhavendra Puri here is speaking, and he says, "Let the sharp moralist accuse me of being illusioned. I do not mind. Experts in Vedic activities may slander me as being misled. Friends and relatives may call me frustrated. My brothers may call me a fool, and the wealthy Mammonites may point me out as mad. And the learned philosophers may assert that I am much too proud. Still, my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve the lotus feet of Govinda, though I be unable to do it." Srila Madhavendra Puri Goswami Ki Jai. So, this pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaving home and becoming a sannyasi is very deep. And it's sometimes referred to as Karuna Rasa. And Karuna Rasa, Karuna generally means compassionate or mercy, and it certainly does in this case. There's also a meaning which is grief. Grief and mercy combined together. And the grief is, of course, the residents of Navadvip who were left behind when Mahaprabhu left district Nadia. The Lord had innumerable devotees very much attached to him. And then he accepted the renounced order of life, and sannyasis are not meant to stay in their village or town or wherever they've grown up, surrounded by affectionate family members. They're meant to travel and spread Krishna's glories far and wide. As Prabhupada once said, a sannyasi and a businessman must travel. The sannyasi to expand the number of Krishna's devotees, the Achyuta Gotra, and a businessman to look for more customers and to service his existing customers. One of our very literary godbrothers many years ago wrote an article on the Gaudiya Vaishnav widows' ashrams of Vrindavan, of which there are several. And while doing research for his articles, he interviewed a number of venerable Bengali Vaishnavis, and he asked one lady, "Do you have a patron saint for your ashram?" And at first she didn't understand the question due to the language barrier, but then he rephrased it and gave an example like Mirabai. Mirabai is a famous Vaishnavi saint of the 15th century, and she also has a widow's ashram in Vrindavan. So then she understood, and she said, "Oh yes, we do, but not Mirabai. Our patron saint is Vishnu Priya Devi. She and Sachimata gave Lord Chaitanya to us." So some grief obviously there for the mother and the widow, 16 years old, Vishnu Priya Devi. And all of Mahaprabhu's associates left behind there in Nadia. But as one of these verses says, Mahaprabhu assured them, "You can sometimes come to Jagannath Puri, and I will also sometimes come here and bathe in the river Ganges." So not a complete cut-off. But on the mercy side, Mahaprabhu, not long after making his headquarters in Jagannath Puri, left on a 6-year tour all over India to spread his mercy far and wide. And during that time, he converted many personalities. Because he was a sannyasi, he was able to command respect from the great intellectuals of the day, Prakashananda Saraswati in Benares, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri, the three Bhatta brothers, very senior Brahmins in the Sri Sampradaya, Trimala Bhatt, Venkata Bhatt, and the great Prabodhananda Saraswati. And Venkata Bhatta's son was Gopal, just a boy at the time. He became the celebrated Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And Mahaprabhu also converted many others of different spiritual lineages. There were Buddhists, Jains, Muslims, and many other Vaishnavas, such as the Tattvavadis at Udupi, followers of Madhuracharya, just to name a few. So, though very dramatic as a young man, he's the Supreme Lord, he's fully independent, and he manifested that by accepting this renounced order at a young age. I've been in this temple room on 2 occasions when devotees have asked Mukunda Maharaj, what was it like to be with Srila Prabhupada in those very early days at 26 Second Avenue? And on both occasions, Maharaj has answered there was urgency about Prabhupada. He wasn't in America as a tourist. He was on a temporary visa, and he had a great struggle just to get to America, and the first year in America was a great struggle. So when the breakthrough came, thanks to Mukunda Maharaj and other early friends of Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada secured his own place. By that time, he was already 71 years of age. So there was great urgency. And of course, we never fail to remember that Mukunda Maharaj didn't just assist in that way. He did the same thing in San Francisco, and then he did the same thing in London with other early disciples of Prabhupada, establishing concrete centres. So there was urgency. And similarly, Srila Prabhupada himself did not wait very long before he started sending out his earliest disciples to other parts of the world, to open other branches. He couldn't wait until they became mature, fixed up, very vastly learned, knowledgeable disciples. No, he sent them off to different parts of the world with no money, often just with a pair of cartels or a madanga or maybe a half a box of Back to Godhead magazines, and they started centres. And so there was certainly great urgency. And another example of urgency was Prabhupada's meeting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur for the first time in 1922, when Prabhupada was just 25 or 26 years old. And before he and his friend Sumendranath Mullik had sat down, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was asking them, "You are both educated young men, why don't you spread Lord Chaitanya's teachings in the English language?" They hadn't even taken their seats. And Prabhupada pushed back, as they say these days, a little bit, saying, "Who will listen to your Chaitanya Dev when India is still a dependent nation?" This was 25 years before, in 1947, India finally gained her independence from Britain. And Prabhupada did identify at that point in his life, like millions of his countrymen and women, as a follower of Gandhi and the great struggle for Indian independence. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati defeated him, and Prabhupada was very happy to be defeated. He said that the need of the hour is too great, too urgent, to wait for some political change. And as we all know, the lessons of history are there. Empires come and go. And political parties are sometimes in the ascendancy, and sometimes they're going down. So another example of urgency. So there was an interesting, and just on Mother Sachi agreeing to let her son Nimai accept this renounced order of life. In this regard, Prabhupada does write that a mother who doesn't allow her son or daughter to leave home to search out Krishna is Maya, illusion. Ma certainly means in Bengali mother, but if a mother doesn't allow her child, which is, we know, a very rare thing in the first instance, but is actually the prerogative and the sole blessing of this human form of life, which we don't get very often. We can easily go back down into the animal species and lose this opportunity to search out Krishna. So Mother Sachi did allow her son to leave home and search out Krishna. And he made compromises, he made arrangements with him that he would make his headquarters not so far away in Jagannath Puri rather than Vrindavan. Of course, the Lord's consort, goddess of fortune, Vishnu Priya. There's very moving accounts. The last night that Mahaprabhu stayed in his household, It's said that he left just an hour or two before sunrise the next morning. And his consort knew what her husband was going to do, and she was very quiet, Vishnupriya Devi. But he consoled her as best he could and said, Devi, in this incarnation, all you and I are going to do is cry. Very sad. And Mahaprabhu's crying, of course, manifested in his intense feelings of separation, same mood as Srimati Radharani, pining in separation for her beloved Krishna. But Mahaprabhu also feeling intense unhappiness for the unhappiness of the fallen souls in this age of Kali. So, the Lord did leave home and swam across the river Ganga around dawn and walked to the ashram of Keshava Bharati Maharaj. And Keshava Bharati Maharaj is the incarnation of Akrura in Gaura Lila, because Akrura was responsible for taking Krishna and Balaram out of Sri Brajadam to Mathura. And similarly, Keshava Bharati was responsible for taking Mahaprabhu out of Nadia. By awarding him sannyas, then Mahaprabhu was obliged to travel away. And there were a number of Mahaprabhu's most confidential associates present at his sannyas initiation. And there are two famous pastimes. One where the night before Mahaprabhu had a dream where a very elevated, exalted personality appeared to him in his dream and actually whispered the sannyas mantra into his right ear. And just before Keshava Bharati Maharaj whispered the sannyas mantra into his sannyas disciples' ear, Mahaprabhu checked in with him and told him this, last night I had a dream. And this very exalted personality whispered this mantra. I just want to check with you, is this the mantra? And he uttered it, and that mantra is Tat Tvam Asi. And Keshava Bharati said, yes, that's it. So in this way, the disciple actually initiated the sannyas guru. A wonderful turnaround. And the other, speaking of Tat Tvam Asi, which was the mantra which sannyasis in the Shankara Sampradaya at that time received when they took sannyas. And it's a very ancient mantra, which means in Old English, that thou art, or you are he. So Mahaprabhu didn't like that mantra very much, and he complained to Murari Gupta, I'm not liking this mantra very much. All of Mahaprabhu's associates being great scholars, including Murari Gupta said, look, there's a different translation, explanation. You are his. And Mahaprabhu said, I like that very much. So, of course, Ramai Maharaj isn't here in the morning, but in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we may be knowing that our sannyasis, whenever a man takes sannyas in the Gaudiya line, they don't receive that mantra. That's a Shankara Sampradaya. But nowadays, and it's pretty common knowledge, known as the sannyas mantra, anyone can find it. It's in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's discussion with Uddhava. And it is the famous, what is his name, Brahmana, who leaves home, becomes a sannyasi. A big voice. What is his name? Somebody? I can't hear. Avanti Brahmana, thank you. Sorry, I'm going deaf as well as blind and always been rather stupid. But here we are. The Avanti Brahmana, thank you. Yes, and that mantra translation is, I will cross over the insurmountable ocean of nascience by taking hold of the lotus feet of Lord Mukunda. Mukunda means the giver of liberation. So those pastimes were there. But it's interesting, and we often hear of Ishwara Puri and Keshava Bharati Maharajas, the initiating and sannyas mantras, sannyas gurus of Lord Caitanya. But there is a third guru of Mahaprabhu's, and he is known as the Lord's Rag Marg Guru. Some of you may be knowing who that is. We can just say a little bit about Rag Marg. Of course, refers to the path of spontaneous devotional service, a very elevated state of bhakti. We are on the platform practicing Vaidhi Marg, rules and regulations. There is sadhana and there is sadhya. There are rules and regulations which devotees follow, method, and then there is the goal, prema bhakti, spontaneous love of Godhead. So, anyone want to hazard a guess who Lord Chaitanya's Rag Marg Guru may be? Ramananda Roy, correct? Yes. And this is considered one of the most wonderful conversations in the history of Vaishnavism, Roy Ramananda Samvad. And Devagowda Hari Prabhu did a wonderful service speaking about Ramananda Roy a few days before Gaur Purnima. And he covered this conversation very, very nicely, I have to say. And there were visuals to enhance. We're visual creatures in the age of Kali, so there were wonderful paintings to also enhance our understanding of how Mahaprabhu took the role of student and heard from the teacher, his dear eternal companion Ramananda Roy, starting out where Ramananda Roy, Mahaprabhu asked, what is the goal of life? And Roy Ramananda explained, well, beginning with the institution of Varnashram, if one just follows his or her occupational duties in the institution of Varna and Ashrama, then that's the goal of life, that's perfection. Especially when it's to please the Supreme Lord, Hari. Samsiddhi Haritoshanam. So Lord Chaitanya would say each time it progressed onwards and upwards, that's okay, but there must be something more. And Ramananda Roy, just to quote a few of the examples, would explain, well, there is bhakti but tinged with knowledge. And that is very good as well, and so on and so on, upwards to the pure unalloyed devotion of the residents of Vrindavan, especially Srimati Radharani and her gopi friends. So, but in order to achieve that, there has to be some renunciation. No doubt about that. And just on the matter of renunciation, Mahaprabhu did have in his entourage 9 celebrated sannyasis. And I'll just read their names, and there's a few words about each, because this is very important. These 9 celebrated sannyasis, the trunk, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he sprouted from the principal roots, who are Paramananda Puri Goswami, often considered the most dear to Lord Chaitanya, and he was the incarnation of Uddhava from Krishna Lila. Keshava Bharati, Lord Chaitanya's sannyas guru. Brahmananda Puri, a prominent follower who joined Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri. Brahmananda Bharati, a Vaishnav sannyasi who wore deerskin until Lord Chaitanya told him to stop and adopt saffron cloth. Sri Vishnu Puri, renowned as a saintly devotee. His collection of verses was praised by Lord Chaitanya. Keshava Puri, a respected sannyasi and member of the immediate followers. Krishnananda Puri, a disciple who assisted in spreading the teachings. Srina Sringa Tirtha, a prominent sannyasi among the list of the roots. And Sukhananda Puri, a celebrated follower included in the principal sannyasi roots. And of course, Swarup Damodar is there, and he's recognized as well. As those of us who keep one eye on the weather may know, a Category 4 or 5 cyclone just crossed the far north Queensland coast. We had a cyclone here a little over a year ago, and many trees were blown over. And in cyclonic conditions, trees where the roots don't penetrate deeply down into the earth are more susceptible to being blown over than trees which have deeply penetrating root systems going deep down. So these personalities are there, and many of them, all of them practically, were perhaps Swarup Damodar in age, may have been similar to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, relatively young. And that's not including that list is not including the 6 celebrated Goswamis of Vrindavan. But most of these were venerable, elderly sannyasis, in age more like Mahaprabhu's father or grandfather. Very austere personalities, vastly learned, steeped in bhakti. But when they had the opportunity to associate with Mahaprabhu, they recognized he's our worshipful Ishtadev, he's Krishna, he's Vishnu, he's Lord Narayan incarnate. He's who we've been performing our austerities for decades to please, who we've been studying about and doing kirtan for and chanting our japa. And they also noted that he was much more austere than any of them had ever been. They couldn't compete with the austerities that this young, extremely handsome sannyasi was performing. So they were in awe, and they became his followers. Significant point in that regard. I just lost track. Oh yes, here we go. In Vedic physiognomy, there is an understanding of a person whose arms are 4 cubits long, which means they actually extend down past the knees. It's considered extremely auspicious. And both Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu's arms were 4 cubits long. And in Vedic physiognomy, that is known as Nirgrodha Parimandala. Beautiful name. So 4 cubits long, not 3.5 like ours. We had the good fortune to meet just for a few moments. Very nice brahmachari passing through here from Lithuania last week. Some of you may have met him. His name is Dvijamani Gora, the jewel amongst the brahmanas, Lord Gora Sundar. And I immediately remembered that wonderful song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur that we used to sometimes sing. Yes. The jewel amongst the brahmanas, Lord Gora Sundar. immediately awakened and taking his devotees with him, journeyed through the towns and villages of Madhya. Tatai, tatai, the sounds of the large metal cartels played in time with the mridungas and so on and so forth. Some of us used to love Udila Aruna Purama Bhaji. Can be sung in 2 different meters. So that is Caitanya Mahaprabhu. That's it. The 6 opulences of Bhagavan are described in the Vishnu Purana by the father of Srila Vyasadeva, Parasara Muni. Beauty, strength, fame, knowledge, wealth and renunciation. So Mahaprabhu, as the Supreme Lord, he's manifesting, enjoying his pastime of renunciation. And setting a nice example. Examples and precept are there in spiritual life. In a conversation between Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur, Sanatana Goswami glorified Haridas Thakur that there are some devotees who practice very nicely but don't preach, and there are others who preach very nicely but don't practice very well themselves. But you, dear Haridas Thakur, do both. And perhaps Vasishtha mentioned that because he was sharing with me this morning. He had the privilege of talking about Haridas Thakur last Saturday. So that's there. Might just share one other pastime we heard recently. Just in regard to Lord Caitanya agreeing to his mother's proposal that he make Puri his headquarters, rather than the Lord's first inclination to search out Krishna was to go to Vrindavan. So, on a visit to Gita Nagari farm in Pennsylvania, Srila Prabhupada was being shown around the Goshala, big barn, because Pennsylvania has very cold winters. So all the cows could be brought into this enormous barn, not only for milking, but for care and protection against the elements in the cold winters. So Prabhupada was keenly observing everything in the barn, and at one point a mouse ran across, as only mice can do, spinning its wheels, managed to get to the other side of the barn. There was a cat in the barn, well-fed cat, lots of milk. Cats love milk. It just raised one eye, but didn't bother chasing the mouse. The devotees also had a dog at Gita Nagari in those days. Well-behaved, gentle dog, and it let out a mellow woof, woof, woof. And then the cows started to moo. And there were some children playing nearby in the barn, happily playing. It's like our nice devotee children, happily playing. So Prabhupada saw all this, and he turned to the devotee standing right next to him and said, "Did you see? There was a mouse. There was a cat. There was a dog. The cows were mooing. The children are playing nicely. All in perfect harmony. This is Vrindavan." So, and of course, though it takes some time, this is being replicated here at New Govardhana, as it's being done in so many of these very important rural communities worldwide. Let me just see, we've got a few minutes left. Just a few philosophical points. In health, we may, I'm sure, have all heard, make your food your medicine. In other words, if you eat a well-balanced, healthy diet, you shouldn't get sick too often. We can turn that around in spiritual life and say, make your medicine your food. In other words, at the beginning of spiritual life, the medicine may be a little bitter. Rising early, chanting Hare Krishna mantra, coming to classes, performing devotional service. Sometimes there's great ecstasy, but other times our mind may arc up and say, look, I've had power of attorney here for a long time, millions of lifetimes. All of a sudden you're doing all these new things. No, I'm not happy. But we take our medicine, even on days it may be a little bitter to take, because we've at least come to the realization we're not the body and we're not the mind. We're a spirit soul. But eventually the medicine, chanting Hare Krishna and hearing about Krishna, it becomes our food, it becomes our sustenance, and we actually really relish it. And it's also said philosophically, we should go within. Otherwise, we'll go without. We'll miss out. And Krishna Caitanya means Krishna consciousness. Caitanya means consciousness or living force. And it's only taken me however many years to be able to remember this. The character of the living force in immortality, Prabhupada's translation of Caitanya Charitamrita. Charita means character. Hare Krishna. And another couple of points, everyone, if we can. Prabhupada always said that Mayapur was his place of worship. Of course, he's worshipping the personality of Godhead who appeared there, Lord Chaitanya. Krishna appeared in Mathura and spent his most delightful childhood pastimes in Braj. And then he came again 4,500 years later. This last Gurpanim was the 540th anniversary of Mahaprabhu's appearance. And he appeared in district Nadia. And Nadia, Mayapur Dham is known as, Udaya. Udaya Dham means the place of generosity, munificence, magnanimity, mercy. And it's also mentioned as Sadhana Siddhi Bhumi, or Sadhaka Siddhi Bhumi, the place where siddhas are performing sadhana, not because they have to, they're already perfect devotees, but they're doing it to set a nice example for us to follow. That if you want perfection in spiritual life, this is what you should do. And a couple of examples are, of course, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, residing in Navadvip Mayapur, not far from Mahaprabhu's birth site for 9 years and so many months, completing his vow to chant 1 billion times the Hare Krishna mantra. As soon as he'd completed his vow, he left and went to Calcutta and started his mission around the year 1917. And similarly, Srila Prabhupada resided in Vrindavan for 11 years, preparing himself to come to the Western world. So I'll stop there, everyone. Any question? If anyone's got a quick question, easy question to answer, I might be able to answer it. Yes, I've got one hand up. Is Bhakta mic available? Listen carefully, Prabhus. You may have to answer these questions.
Hare Krishna. I have two, please. The first one...
One at a time.
Yeah, the first one, sorry, for language barrier, I didn't get what you... I didn't understand you have to go within, otherwise you will go without.
Yep.
What does that mean?
Well, we're a spirit soul. We need to turn our attention. The 99.9% of the world's population, their attention is projected outwards into the world of illusion. That's why they're not satisfied. People aren't happy because they're frustrated. That's what material energy does. It frustrates us. So rather than projecting our consciousness outwards, we have to go within. Otherwise, again, we'll miss out. We get a human form of life. We don't utilize it by going within, trying to understand, who am I? famous comment of Sanatana Goswami to Lord Chaitanya at their first meeting, K.R.me, who am I? People say I'm a great pundit, he was, but I'm such a pundit I don't know who I am. So Mahaprabhu enlightened. Is that okay? First question? Yeah.
The second question is, do we know why Krishna decided to appear in the family of Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata? Like, were they his eternal associates as well? And the same question goes to Vishnupriya.
Yes, Jagannath Mishra and Sachimata, Nanda Maharaj and Jasoda. Absolutely, yes, appearing again. And Vishnupriya, definitely one of the Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, yes, along with the Lord's earlier wife who passed away, Lakshmi Priya or Lakki Priya, if you speak Bengali, goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis. Yeah. Okay. My finger is, yes?
Very quick point of interest, which I've mentioned a couple of times lately, it's relevant to the super excellent transcendental sannyas initiation of Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada wrote one purport that was, because you mentioned Paramananda Puri as the chief trunk, especially in the Puri pastimes, and being Uddhava.
Well, root of the Mahaprabhu is the trunk.
So Prabhupada writes that it was actually at that initiation that as Paramananda Puri personally handed the danda was given to him by, which is significant also.
Yes, good point.
Rather than Keshav Bharati.
Yes, good point. While you've got the microphone, can I ask you, is Mukunda Maharaj going to give Madan Mohan sannyas on this visit or sometime wait?
He's still under the sannyas ministry.
Yes.
They've just sent him to South Africa for a month.
Okay.
So they're making it more difficult for him.
It's okay.
He's getting close.
And when I spoke to him on his last visit, it's highly likely that he will receive sannyas here from Mukunda Maharaj at New Govardhana. Maharaj is not going to...
I was thinking about it last night, yes.
I'm sorry?
I was thinking about the same thing last night.
There you go.
Yes.
So that will be a first for New Govardhana because I don't think we've ever had a sannyas initiation here.
We've only,
So that's... Huh? Sorry? Anyone else? Ramprasad, sorry.
I just had a thought,
Forgive my deafness, Professor.
furthering from Emma's question. We have to go within or we go without. In English, going without is not just a going somewhere, it means to miss out.
Yes. Good point, Ram. Thank you. Emma, you caught that? Yeah. You miss out. Did I? Okay. All right. No, good point, Ram. Yes. Pastor Stresta has a hand up.
I had a conversation yesterday how we have the Krishna, the retreat program, right? And the guests come and they absorb so much Krishna consciousness that, like, you know, different levels, but they do absorb that most don't want to go off the bridge, you know, they're so happy being here. And I said that's opposed to other retreat centres that just pander the body, that like you have the spa and the sauna and the massage and everything. And one lady just made the comment, she said, yes, I went to one of them and they got the full treatment. And as soon as they got out, they were speaking about all the anxieties they were going to face as soon as they got out in the world.
That's a good point, yeah. Mind, body and spirit here at New Govardhana. And, you get it all, the complete package. Yeah, nice. Thanks, nice. All right, thank you, Prabhu's Jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. All right.